So let's make a video on the homework. Which one would you like to see? Numbers 1, 2, or 3?
2.
On any one of these, you see how they give you the coordinates, -2, 3, and -1, 0? You could label it x1, y1, x2, y2, and you could use a slope formula, but honestly, that's a waste of time. Why is it a waste of time? Because you could see the line visually, and we know that if we want to calculate slope, all we got to do is pick 2 points, and they actually give us the 2 points. And all you got to do is count how much you rise and how much you run. So from this point to this point, are you going up or are you going down? Going down. So how much do you actually go down? How many levels do you go down? 3. So your slope is rise over run. So the rise is actually, you guys just said go down 3, so that's -3 for the rise. How about the run? How much do you go from this x value to this x value? 1. So it's really 3, -3 over 1. So your slope for number 1 is -3 over 1. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. This one, from here up to here, obviously you're going up. You're not going down from left to right. Again, we always look at lines kind of like reading a sentence. You read a sentence from left to right. So from left to right, is it going up or is it going down? It's going up. How much does it go up? 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And now how much does it run from here to here? It runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I rise 4, I run 5, so my slope is rise 4, run 5. This one, what's my slope? Again, slope is steepness, guys. Right there you could clearly see that line is not steep at all. It's the opposite of steep. It's totally flat. There is no slope. So the slope is 0. Moving on to the next part of our homework here. We don't have to do number 15. I mean, it's pretty easy because the denominators are the same. So, I mean, you should be able to do it. You don't have to do 14 either. That's not going to be on there. But the rest you should be able to do pretty easily. Pick one. 5. Okay, so you want to find, there is a line that passes through -9, -3, and a line that passes through, that same line also passes through -7, -5. So you could actually draw it if you wanted to, see the line, and then count how much you rise and how much you run. But the easier thing to do is to use algebra. So I'm going to first write down my slope formula. That's my slope formula. Second thing I'm going to do is label the coordinates. This is an x, that's a y, that's an x, that's a y. Of course, you can't tell the difference between the x's until you label them. This is my first point, so I'm going to put a 1 on that x and y. The other one's my second point, so I'm going to put a 2 on the x and the y. So now it's just a question of taking the values and plugging them into my formula. So once again, my formula, m equals, what's it going to equal? Let's put the values in after doing the division and the subtractions. That way we don't get confused. So what belongs up here on the top left? y2. And what is y2 that belongs right here? -5. Thank you. So we have -5. And what's y1? That belongs on the top right? -3. How about the bottom left? x2 is -7. Bottom right? -9. Now, I hope you guys see why it's so important that you do the division first and the subtractions up on top and bottom. That way, when you plug in your values, you could clearly see that this is a negative, that's a negative, so they have to change the plus plus. So let's do that. Let's change it to plus plus, plus plus. And now let's simplify the top. What is -5 plus 3? -2. And on the bottom, we have a -7 plus 9. 2. Could we simplify that fraction? Yeah. What's the answer? -1. So m equals -1. That's your slope. It's okay if you leave it in fraction form. You could say m equals -1 over 1. That's totally fine as well. On the back of your worksheet, it just gives you the answer -1. The slope is -1. Which other one would you like to see?
Number 16.
Any from 4 to 13?
12.
12? Nah, we're not going to do 13. Actually, we could do 13. Let's do 12 and 13. Okay, so the slope formula. There's the slope formula. And let's label the coordinates, xy, xy, first point, second point. And now let's plug in our values into the formula itself. Y2 is 8, Y1 is negative 5, X2 is 7, X1 is negative 2. Minus minuses, change the plus plus. 8 plus 5 is 13, 7 plus 2 is 9. There's your answer. You see, it's easy. Number 13. Hopefully, by this point, you guys are already familiar with the slope formula. That way you don't have to write it down. That way you could just say, okay, my slope is going to be this formula. Or you say y2. So xy, xy, first point, second point. Y2 is 5, y1 is 10. X2 is 12, x1 is 12. Are you with me?
Yes.
5 take away 10, negative 5. 12 take away 12, 0. When 0 is underneath, it's undefined. Undy. Underneath, undefined. If 0 is on top, the answer is 0. If you actually take a calculator and you put negative 5 divided by 0, it's going to say error. Any number divided by 0, you have to write undefined. I don't want you to leave it like this. I actually want you to write undefined, so don't leave it like that. I know I'm working through this really fast. If you're at home watching this, please pause, rewind as much as you need to slow it down. Okay, so let's go to the harder ones. The second half of the worksheet, that's where they give you the slope and they're asking for a missing value. Which one would you like to see? 16? Sure, why not? So we have the two coordinates and they give us the slope. So let's start by writing down the slope formula. There's my slope formula. Now let's label the coordinates, xy, xy, 1, 1, 2, 2. And now let's actually plug in. So here's my equal sign. There's my fraction. And let me substitute my values. My y2 value is 7. My y1 value is r. My x2 value is 6. My x1 value is negative 2. Now, I usually use this formula to find slope. It'll give us the m value. But right here, they give us the m value already. So I'm going to take the 1/2 that's right here, and I'm going to substitute it in place of the m. So it's going to be a 1/2 right here. So here's my equation. 1/2 equals 7 minus r over 8. Why do I say 8? Because 6 minus 2 is really 8. So let me rewrite my equation. 1/2 equals 7 minus r over 8. Now at this point, there's many roads to the same place. There's many ways of solving this equation. You could cross multiply, sas, right? You could say 8 equals 2 times the binomial 7 minus r, which means you're going to have to distribute. Or you could get rid of fractions to start getting the r by itself. It's totally up to you. So what do you guys prefer? Get rid of fractions? Okay, so notice I have my r on the right side of the equal sign. Let's get the r by itself. What's my first move to get the r by itself? Times what? 8. All right, and the 8s will cancel. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. Now, 8 over 2 does cancel. What do we get? 4. That's right. So we really have the new equation, 4 on the left equals 7 minus r on the right. And now let's get the r by itself by subtracting 7 on both sides. And I want to get negative 3 equals negative r. Now you don't want a negative r, you want a positive r. So you're going to multiply both sides or everything by negative 1. Which is simply going to change the sign. So you're going to have a positive 3 equals positive r. That's your answer. R equals 3. That's not your slope. We just found the value of r. So if I were to take the r value of 3 and put it right there, and let's say I did graph the coordinate negative 2, 3, and the coordinate 6, 7, and I drew a line through both of those points, I would see that it rises 1 and runs 2. That would be the slope of the line if this r was 3. So we found the missing value that actually gives us a line that produces a slope 1/2. Any other ones? 19? 18, 19? 18, 19, 20. All right, let's go with 18 here. Formula first, and then label your coordinates. And then after that, plug it all in. So instead of m, I'm going to write -9/2. -9/2 instead of m. And then I have the equal sign. And then I have the division bar and the subtractions. And now let me plug in my y2 value of r, my y1 value of -4, my x2 value of -5, my x1 value of -3. And of course, the minuses change to plus. So I have an equation here that I could actually solve. Let me rewrite this equation and let me make it simple. What do I mean by that? The -5 plus 3, that becomes -2. It'll make it look a lot nicer. So let me rewrite the whole thing. I really have -9/2 equals the fraction r plus 4 over -2. Are you with me? And now, like I said, there's many ways of solving this problem right here. It's actually a proportion. One fraction equals another fraction. You can cross multiply -9 times -2, that's positive 18, equals 2 times the binomial r plus 4. That's one option. Or you could get rid of fractions. We got rid of the other fraction on the other problem. How about on this one we actually cross multiply? Let's set it up. How do we cross multiply? It's going to be -9 times -2 equals 2 times r plus 4, but it's a binomial. So let me show that work here. -9 times -2 equals 2 times r plus 4. So I have a simple equation. 18 equals 2r plus 8. See, cross multiplying is not bad at all. I mean, I think it's even easier than getting rid of the fractions. So let's get rid of the 8 now by subtracting 8 on both sides. Subtracting 8, I'm going to have a new equation that says 10 equals 2r. What would my final step be? Divide to get rid of that multiplication of 2. Divide by 2. So your final answer is r equals 5. Now again, that's not the slope. That's only the value of r. So if I did plug in a 5 right here and I found the slope of these 2 points, or I graphed this point and that point, then drew my line through it, then I would see from left to right I'd be going down 9 and over 2. So this is the missing value 5 for r that would give you this slope. Let's check out that one. There's 2 r's. Let's do it. So we have xy, xy, first point, second point. We know our slope formula. y2, y1, x2, x1. And we know how to use this formula. Always start with the division and the subtractions. Then you could plug in your y2 value of r, your y1 value of 2, your x2 value of 5, your x1 value of r. And of course, it's going to equal your slope. But notice they give us a slope which is 0. So you could put the 0 on this side, or you could put it on the other side, wherever you want. Okay? I want to go with the right side instead of the left side. So here's my equation. Is there anything I could do to simplify it? No, 5 take away r, I can't do. R take away 2, I cannot do. So what I'm going to do now is get rid of the fraction. How do I get rid of the fraction? By multiplying both sides, multiplying everything by the denominator. And in this case, the denominator is a binomial, 5 minus r. So I'm going to put 5 minus r that way, and I multiply it, that way it cancels out. But what I do to one side, I must also do to the other side and multiply by 5 minus r over here. So yes, the 5 minus r cancels with the 5 minus r. I end up with a new equation, r minus 2 equals, what's 0 times 5 and 0 times r? 0. So I still have r minus 2 equals 0. So what does r actually equal? 2. Yep, 2. R equals 2.
What about number 20? It says undefined.
Number 20, undefined. So let's write our slope formula. Let's label our coordinates. First point, second point. Let's plug in our values. Now, what does undefined mean? What does undefined mean? Zero's on the bottom, right? Zero's on the bottom. So let's keep that in mind, that whatever my slope is, I'm going to have it equal to 0 on the bottom. And maybe some number up on top, but whatever with that number. Right now, all we need to remember is that the undefined slope ends up being 0 on the denominator. So let's plug in our values here. Y2, which is 5, minus Y1. Actually, that should go in blue. 5 minus Y1, which is 4. X2, which is R, minus X1, which is 1. So I really have 5 minus 4, which is 1. So let me rewrite my equation. I have 1 up on top over R minus 1 equals, we know it has to have a 0 on the bottom. So ladies and gentlemen, what we know here is that we have a fraction and it has to equal 0 on the bottom. So what do we have on the bottom right here? We have R minus 1 on the bottom, right? So it's kind of like using logic. If this R minus 1 has to be 0, I'm going to actually write that out. R minus 1 has to be 0. By me setting it equal to 0, I'm going to find out what the R value is, which is 1. Because 1 minus 1 will give you that 0. So R equaling 1 plus 1 on both sides, R equaling 1 will actually make this slope become undefined. I'm done. You're not. Finish the homework. Good luck on the quiz Thursday.